Hi YouTube, this is a video destroying this little neck knife. Um, I didn't really think of anything, too horribly original or anything like that. So I'm going to use it to cut a couple of things up. I already did a rope cutting test. It cut this rope, I don't know. I got tired after about 150 cuts and it was still cutting just good. Um, we'll start off with some specifications on the knife. Uh, Overall, we're looking at 6 7/8 or so, uh, 3 3/8 from the tip to the front of the scales, and about 7/8 of an inch wide. It was differentially hardened, and I didn't know if the hardening line would show up, so this right here is the line, the hardening line. Yeah, I can't really, camera can't quite pick it up where the hardening line is. So anyway, so the hardening line's about here. It is 61 thousandths thick at the spine right about here, 34 thousandths thick, a quarter inch back from the edge, and 13 thousandths at the shoulder of the edge, which is where, right where your sharpening marks end. That's where I take that measurement. So anyway, this has got that Smith's 325 grit edge on it. So we'll grab some rope. This is about the most abrasive rope I've ever used. And when I bought it, I bought a whole roll of it. It was 100 foot or so, something like that. It comes in, it's 3/4 inch thick, I believe. So I usually unravel it and just use one lay of it. But you can cut this rope pretty much till you get tired. And it'll just keep right on cutting. The nice thing about these blades being out of a 1/16 inch stock is that they're extremely thin and very easy to use. See, they'll just go through that 1/4 inch thick leather like it's nothing. I mean, I don't have a scale on my hand, but I'm not using hardly any force at all to cut through that. They'll bite real nice and easy into, I think this is poplar. And if you put enough force behind it, go through that piece. It's 1.25 inches wide or so in one cut. Here's some oak. And you can see it's just popping little curls off of it. You can probably do a little bit of curly cues there if you wanted to make a fire starter or something. And there's nothing to the edge. Nothing at all. Kydex. Kydex is a fun one. This is the thin stuff that I make the sheaths out of. And it's usually pretty tough to cut, but that thin blade will just slide right through it. Let's see if I can get a little bit better shot of that on the camera. Since it's so thin, it just slips right through it. Anyway, since I made the comment about splitting wood, I guess we'll try to split some wood with it. Now, this being a 1/16 of an inch thick stock, the grind only comes up to about there. So it's near a full height flat grind. I wouldn't really expect it to have a whole lot of splitting ability because there's just not enough thickness there for the blade to act as a wedge. Let me make sure that's in the camera. Yeah. So we'll just use this block. And now I am not a fan of battening. I think it's probably one of the most abusive things you can do to a knife. But battening on soft pine like this really isn't all that tough. But I've broken more knives by battening them through stuff than anything else. We're not going to try that oak because I want to see what this thing does in a flex test. Now it's already done the edge flex test. several times where you flex the edge over a brass rod. Oh wait, first let's do some stabbing. Let's grab the micrometer here. Okay, so a 1/4 inch back from the very tip. Nice thing about this is that the ram on my anvil is a 1/4 inch wide. So a 1/4 inch back from the very tip here. We're looking at about 40 thousandths or so. So let's do the classic old stab it into some pine. Can you see that? Yep. And then twist it out sideways. It held up. Okay, now let's do the flex test. I always like breaking knives. It's a good thing I make them, otherwise I don't think I could afford all the breaking. When you do a flex test in a vise, always make sure you pad your jaws. Otherwise, the sharp corner of this jaw will dig into the surface of the steel and cause a stress riser and make it break quite a bit sooner than what it would if it wasn't bending over that sharp edge. So seeing as how our temper line is right about, or our hardening line is right about there, let's go ahead and clamp the blade right up in there and see what happens. This is a test not only of the steel and the heat treat, but I'm going to grab it up here, and it'll also be a test of this front pin. Now this pin was added after the scales were glued on, and it's peened on both sides. So what we'll see is we should see a nice little flex up in here. This handle scale will probably, both of them will probably crack and pop a little bit, and then the knife will break or it'll survive the bend, either way. Safety glasses. Okay. You know, my torque wrench setup won't fit this, so yeah, we'll just have to go by feel. Okay, so actually let's set you up to where you can see about the amount of angle of flex here. And zoom in. And with a little bit of luck, if it breaks, we'll be able to catch the angle that it broke at, roughly. I mean, you're not quite square to the blade, but it'll be pretty close. There we go. And now, I didn't catch about what angle that was, but now we can take a look at our grain. Get this up really, no, I don't think it's going to focus on it. If I took the grind up a little bit higher and then didn't quench it quite so deep, it more than likely would have survived the 90-degree flex test. I've had kitchen knives out of 16th inch 1095 pass them quite a bit, but in a small knife like this I wanted more rigidity, and really if you're bending a knife that far, you're into something that you shouldn't be, and you probably ought to go get another tool for that anyways. Anyways, the interesting thing was that I didn't hear any popping or cracking, which means that these handle scales and that forward pin did quite a bit better than what I figured they would. This is just curly maple with 3 1/8" brass pins that were peened over. So now let's go ahead and let's destroy the handle. Take you over to the bench vise. That's a hot pattern for a 4-inch, just a hair under a 4-inch hunter. Grab a welding glove since I didn't leave, well actually we'll grab a set of tongs here. Hold it with that. That's going to slip too much. There we go. Now let's grab my favorite, I think this is a 3.5 pound hammer, or a 3. Can you see the handle there? Let's beat on it a few times. Now that's with the, my hammers are, I grind them differently. The side that's got the mark on it is a rounding face, and the side that doesn't have a mark on it is the flatting face. That way you can move steel with this side and you can smooth it out with this side. So that was the damage with the flat side. And I don't see that epoxy was cracked or anything. It did mushroom the pin considerably, flattened it out a little bit on both sides. So we'll try the rounding side. And it's basically just squishing the wood. It's not busting it off or anything. We'll try on the side or up here, like let's say if you were doing that battening thing and your batten hit the forward of the handle scales. That's not do. Oh, we got a split in the wood there. But I want to see this handle come all the way off. See how well this epoxy was holding. Okay, so you can tell that the handle wasn't hardened, and it's still soft because it's just mushrooming. And that epoxy and those rivets are really holding it on there well. Oh, we got a there's an epoxy rivet right there. And you can see how this tang is just beat up. I can clamp it in the vise using my post vise. And you can see that tang is nice and soft. See how it just folded over? And those rivets are really doing a good job holding what's left of the handle material on there. And there's another epoxy rivet. Okay, since we're beating on stuff, let's grab the sheath and beat it up too. See what it takes, because these are just leather rivets. See what it takes to pop them. Maybe we'll just no, they're holding on there really well. Let's hit it on the edge. You know, I've heard of folks having problems with Kydex in extremely cold temperatures. This stuff is pretty dang tough. Let's fold it back over on itself while it's cold, or at room temperature, and yeah, it's not, oh, you can tell it's weak, and it's starting to work harden. You know, I suppose what I could do is take some Kydex and throw it in the freezer. Let it sit in the freezer overnight, and then beat up on it a little bit. But yeah, this stuff is really tough. I haven't used a whole lot of Kydex. I've only made, oh, I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 sheaths out of it. So I'm still learning about it quite a bit. But anyways, let's see, where's the, oh. Get over in some better light. So, there's a sheath. We're able to pull the side of the Kydex out of it with the rivet. Yeah, that other rivet held on there really good. It's still in there. And that's what's left of the blade. Snapped it off once. Snapped it off again while I was holding it with the tongs. It broke a little portion of it off. And then bent the tang. Well, let's bend it back over on itself. See if it'll make that. We've got 8 more minutes of tape. Reach back on the anvil. Bent it to that, and there's still no sign of cracking or anything. It's almost in on itself, but what's left of the handle scales is stopping it. So anyway, that's what's left of our neck knife. That was a lot of fun. Hope you enjoyed this.